Every fourth Friday of each month, the museum puts on a talk. You can watch the videos, they're published on YouTube. Connect up, it's free. Click the bell and you'll be notified. Thanks a lot for watching.
You all probably know about Cottage by the Sea, I'm sure, but it is an amazing institution, founded in 1890 by the Ministering Children's League to improve the lives of young, disadvantaged children in need by providing them with inspiration, fun and opportunities through tailored programs within a holiday environment. The children attending are chosen by schools and welfare agencies. The continuing existence of CBS, or Cottage by the Sea, is a remarkable feat of dedication, generosity and volunteerism by the local and broader community, enabling it to continue through many challenges without government funding for 135 years, and now still moving forward, underpinned with a solid foundation and vision to continue for many more years to come under the strong, safe and competent leadership of its current CEO, Adam Wake. Adam joined Cottage by the Sea in 2019 after 11 years managing the Lacola Wilderness Village, a non-profit camp in Victoria's high country, serving children who had experienced vulnerability. Prior to this, Adam held management roles in outdoor education in Australia and internationally. In addition to a valuable career in outdoor education, Adam holds a law and business degree, has experience in finance, as well as in training in mental health, first aid, childhood trauma, child protection, and a range of professional studies. His passion has and continues to be working to provide a better life and opportunities for children. The cottage couldn't be in better hands. Welcome, Adam.
Thank you, Mary Lou, and thank you, Historical Society, for having me along today. I was waiting for my invite. It's taken 6 years. No, it's great to be here, really. How are children selected to come to Cottage by the Sea? That's a question we're often asked. It's a good one. So that's where I'm going to start. I'll then take you on a little journey from 1890 through to the current day and into the future. I'm a little bit nervous about the historical bit in case I get anything wrong in this esteemed company. I'm sure there'll be a few of you who can point that out. So please don't leave me up here alone. Do ask questions. I'm happy to take questions as we go. Alternatively, we can wait till the end. I do have a habit as well of digressing and telling stories as we go, and I hope that's okay. Bear with me as I do that, but there are so many stories that I consider so valuable to the work at Cottage by the Sea that I am going to keep doing that and keep stopping and keep telling you those little anecdotal stories, because for those that are there, we see them every single day. So how do we select a child to join us at Cottage by the Sea? A starting point is called the ICSE Index, or the Index of Community, Social, Education and Advantage. What that basically sums up to mean is opportunity or lack thereof. So there's a body, an independent body in Victoria that creates a scaling system, and it's done every single year. And as long as children score, or as long as rather than the children, the area, the schools score low on that scale, they are considered for our program. There are other community partnerships we have as well. For example, with Mirabel. Mirabel they help children who have lost their parents either through incarceration or death because of drug or alcohol use. And Very Special Kids, for example, we run their siblings program. Very Special Kids run out of an amazing facility in Malvern in Melbourne for children at end of life. And we take the siblings at Cottage. Some of the statistics with the siblings are pretty sad, to be honest. A few years ago, there was a little girl, 6 years old, who came on a holiday program, and I was off heading actually to the right down to the toilets, and instead my attention was drawn to this beautiful little girl dancing around the dining room. And I got drawn to that, and I came and I started speaking to her, what have you been up to today? And she said, I've been in the water, I've never seen the water before. And I saw a stingray, it was huge. We squatted down on the floor together, and when she said its tail was enormous, she jumped into the air and said, this tail was fantastic, it was huge. And I saw into her mouth, and my heart broke. Her teeth were completely black. Not a shade of black, they were completely black, and inside her mouth was all torn up, it was all red and raw. And my heart broke in that moment, just to think this little girl, she wasn't at an age yet to feel the stigma that's attached to something like that going on in your mouth. Her dad had not been a nice person, and she was living with grandma at the time. I am happy to tell you there's a happy turnaround story with this, though, that Cottage does have an incredible community. You look at you guys in here now. I started to speak to people because I was so sad about what I'd witnessed on that day, and somebody out of this community, Queenscliff and Point Lonsdale, came forward and said, I can get her help with the leading orthodontist in the area. And now she's got a white, smiling personality before it had impacted the way her life was going to progress. So I'm really happy to tell you he's going great now, and grandma doesn't have to pay for any of that treatment. It's all been taken care of. So that's a great little stop story. I'm going to do that a bit through this. So as I said, I'm going to take you on a little journey, the past, the present, and into the future. That's the past. That was back in the late 1800s, and that was the first building that was put there. I should actually say that in 1890, Elizabeth called her, and it was wonderful actually to see Lavinia sitting in the audience today. Lavinia is Elizabeth Calder's great aunt or niece. One great. It's just the one great, okay? So it's great to see you here, Lavinia, and wearing Elizabeth Calder's Ministering Children's League brooch around your neck. I noticed it when you walked in. So Elizabeth and Annie Hitchcock were travelling over from the UK, and they met a lady called the Countess of Meath, who was running a home called the Ministering Children's League in the UK. And they ended up setting these up all around the world. Interestingly, Cottage is the only one that still exists in the same form as it was set up to help children to this day, 135 years later. Also interestingly, Annie Hitchcock's son, Howard Hitchcock, 5 times Mayor of Geelong, he was the founder, or he realised the dream to build the Great Ocean Road, as it happens. So anyway, Elizabeth and Annie, I understand, spent 5 years on the back of a horse and cart to raise the original funds to build that. It was an 11-bedroom room. It housed 12 children for restoration and health. In the early 1900s, children with illness continued to come through Cottage by the Sea. In 1936, the old building was demolished. And the new building, almost as you see it today, and you all know which building it is, the big one, was built. In 1938, it was completed. Almost immediately, it was commandeered by the war effort as a military hospital with a big white circle and a red cross painted on the roof. In fact, I today met somebody in the audience here who was possibly the last surviving patient in there, not as a returning serviceman, but he was there to see his dad. Oh, there you are at the front. He was there to see his dad, and he tripped up as he walked in through the front door. So he had to get treated there. So it was returned to Cottage 5 years later in 1943. It's reported to me that when the war effort took Cottage over, almost immediately after the building had been completed, that the staff were given a 24-hour window to get them and the kids out. So a place was bought in Black Rock on the other side. They packed the kids up, went across on the paddle steamer and set up there, and that's where they stayed for 5 years before coming back to its spiritual home, Cottage by the Sea here in Queenscliff. And what an amazing place it is. So a lot of you will remember the trams that were there in maybe the 70s, 80s, maybe even at the start of the 90s. There were 2 trams there as a play area for the kids. I hear regularly, and maybe some of you will attest to that in this room, that as a child on the beach here in Queenscliff, it was your first experience of what vulnerability and disadvantage actually meant. So I've had people in their adulthood come to me frequently and tell me that they didn't understand that not everybody had the same life experience as them. And they would start to ask, who are these kids on the beach? And that was a life journey of understanding that not everybody gets dealt the same hand. And of course, that's true of our children. This is just the front of Cottage by the Sea. We're a values-based organisation, as you can see. Respect, integrity, adventure, belonging and community. The children are introduced to these on every single arrival. They even sign their names to an agreement, a commitment, a contract, if you like, that they will try and uphold those values. And that's very important to us, and it's true in everything we do at Cottage. I was recently having a beer down on the waterfront here. It's a great spot with an amazing chap, actually, who lives here in Queenscliff. He's helping me with some strategic planning type stuff. It's something that doesn't come naturally to me, but he's brilliant at it. And as we were winding up our meeting, he said to me, and I've got to read this because I jumped in my car and wrote it down. He said, "A child's laughter is gold. What you are doing at Cottage is the big stuff. If we lose that, we're all stuffed. Not just the child or the family, but humanity. If we lose their happiness, our kids, their laughter, humanity is stuffed." And he didn't say stuffed. I can't use the word he used, but... and I agree with that. I thought that was beautifully worded. It's never been more important. And that seems true of every era. It's never been more important what we do. We are seeing increased anxiety. We're seeing increases in challenges at home and increases in image issues and eating disorders. According to the Victorian Council of Social Services, more than 216,000 children in Victoria alone are living in significant economic disadvantage. 216,000 kids in Victoria. So it's never been more important what we do. I've been working in this sector in outdoor education, specifically with children experiencing vulnerability, for over 20 years now. And I've never seen another operation like Cottage. In fact, I was here on holiday 3.5 years before I got the job. I came 4 hours from Far East Gippsland, and I'd said to some friends, now that is a place I'd like to work because I know about their programs. And as soon as I saw the job came up, obviously, I jumped on the internet and put an application in, and well, the rest is history. I'm lucky that I managed to bring my family the 4 hours across to Queenscliff. Amazing place you guys live in. I've never seen an operation that has such a focus on every single child's need. We put a lot of energy into that. There's times where we need to roster extra staff on so they can have that one-on-one time with a child. It does come at a cost, but it is a cost that's worth it. We're in a very, very privileged position. And it's the same conversation as I have with the staff team, is that we've created a safe place at Cottage. So people will tell us things that have happened in their lives. And it's a privilege to be able to offer them the help, a sounding board, and then take that further if or when needed. But I just glance at that image there, those 6 different images, and I could tell you 100 stories. So let me just look at them and come up with a couple. Okay, the one in the middle. We take the kids out swimming, of course. The vast majority of these kids who come to us have never seen the ocean. Never even seen the ocean. Surely that's a right in Australia. There's 10,000 beaches in this country, and most of these kids have never even stood on one. We had a boy come to us a couple of years ago. He had acquired brain injury. Initially, the school had said he couldn't come because it was in the too difficult bracket. So fortunately, that attention to detail, the attention on the individual, our staff rang up the school and said, no, we don't accept that. Can we talk to Mum? Had to get the permissions sorted. So we spoke to Mum, and Mum came with the little boy. And out in the water, we sent our most experienced staff member, the program manager herself, went out into the water, had one of those yellow floaty devices under his arms. And amazingly, for the first time, only time I know of, an Australian fur seal swam up to him and started nudging him on the belly. And what an amazing moment. Mum's in tears on the boat watching this. And she said to me afterwards, I didn't realise that he did not need to live a limited life. He can now go and have his life. She was in tears, I'm in tears. But that was just a wonderful, another wonderful example of what we do. Top right story in the snow. We just had a group return from the snow last week. Actually, you might have noticed on the flyers, I'm wearing clothes dressed for the Arctic on a 35 degrees Celsius day it was. I did a fundraiser myself in the Arctic to raise money to send those kids. One girl finished that, anonymously wrote a note to us that said, this was only last week, as I say, and said words to the effect, for the first time in my life, I know it's okay to be with other people. Now that sounds odd, doesn't it, as well? But isn't that an amazing thing? So the snow camp is expensive to run. We only do it once a year, but the children get so much out of it. Middle bottom picture. For a child who's never seen the water, can you imagine hanging off the back of the boat and being dragged along like that? These are points in life that are just amazing. Every child that comes through, we give them a fishing rod and a tackle box so they go home and get outside more often. So important. I've actually not even been looking at my notes. I'm sorry, I'm not sure what I'm supposed to be talking about here. I've digressed a few times. A principal once said to me, his cohort of children, their lives consisted of three things: the street that they lived on, their school that they went to when they turned up, and the local shop. That's it. Where's the inspiration going to come from in their lives? I've always felt, as well, since I came into this sector of work 22, 23 years ago, I've always felt that children need adventure. It is one of our values. If a child doesn't get given adventure, they're going to seek it anyway, and it becomes misadventure. I worked with two amazing lads years ago. They were just fantastic kids, but they lived in a very small local community. They had no footy team, no sports, no real adventure, no opportunities, and they got caught breaking and entering, unfortunately. But they turned out to be amazing lads. They're in their 20s now. Very recently, I was talking to one of the teachers. I was just leaving for the day quite late, and there was an amazing noise coming from the dining room. The kids were at fever pitch, which is a wonderful noise that Susie, I just saw your face there, sorry, that Susie volunteers every week in the kitchen. So you can attest again to the noise that comes from these kids sometimes. It is a wonderful noise. But because of that, I had to stop and I had to turn to the left again towards the dining room. And I said to one of the teachers, how's your day been? She said, brilliant. And I'm reading this again because as soon as I finished the conversation, I wrote it down word for word. She said, this is the best camp I've been on. It's not just the facility and the activities, which are amazing. It's the staff. The staff make this place. They're incredible. The kids, most of them have never even seen a boogie board, and they saw dolphins. It's the best camp ever. So I inquired, have you been on many camps then? And she went, I can't spell this word, but she made something like that, a noise like that. And she said, in 21 years at this school, I've probably been on 40 camps. But it's not all rosy, of course. One of the biggest challenges the program teams are facing at the moment is an increase in neurodiverse conditions. We're seeing more autism, more ADHD. Family trauma is coming through more and more and more. Our staff are trained in youth mental health, first aid, conflict resolution. The majority of our team have or will undergo training in cultural awareness. Trauma-informed therapy is an important one. At the turn of the century, around about the year 2000, we had about 600 children come through Cottage. In 2019, the last year pre-COVID, we had 1,212 kids come through the doors. So the numbers had doubled in those nearly 20 years. This year we've had 1,860 kids come through program. So it has grown quite significantly. It's important to me, the board, the staff, that we don't grow too quickly because you could lose sight and the quality of what it is you're offering. And that's really important that we don't lose that quality. So the Take a Break program is one of the main programs we run. A lot of the kids come on that. This year, there's been 1,345 kids on this program alone. Deakin University did a report just on Take a Break, an impact research piece. It was amazing. And they went on then from that to write a piece on the role of outdoor education changing the lives of young people experiencing vulnerability. Now that is really important. I even watched a video this morning, a 15-minute clip of a guy who came out of a place called Wollongara up in the high country. I know Wollongara quite well. I've been there several times. And, he had a life himself, but he talked this morning, what was so important was, he talked this morning about that single moment in life completely changed the direction of his life. The Take a Break program is a one program opportunity. It's a one camp opportunity. For these children in particular who've experienced vulnerability, coming from a place where they have little experiences, little opportunity, they haven't seen much in life, but then they go out and swim with the dolphins, see the seals, see the giant stingrays with the huge tail. It's a point in time that they never forget. Deakin University went on to do another impact study as well. And I've got a number of copies, just not the whole 76 pages, you don't have to read it all, just a 2-page summary there on the table. Please grab a copy for yourself and just have a look. It was amazing what they found out, that the time at Cottage, even if it was just once, does not diminish in time. That's what we expected. They changed the name of the report while they were doing their studies, and I'm talking 5 different doctors and professors went around the state visiting alumni, going all the way back to 1939, I think, was the oldest alumnus. I can never get them right. Alumnus, I think. All the way back to 1939, as I said. What they found is it was so important that point in time that it grew the impact as children understood what the experience meant to them. Being surrounded by positive, supportive adults in an environment of inspiration really makes a difference. The next program I want to touch on, the Reef program, and then after that will be the Mentor program. These were the 2 programs that initially brought me to Cottage by the Sea. There's nothing else like it in the country. I've been in the sector for nearly 25 years, as I've said. I've never seen anything like this. Children first come on Reef in year 6, and they come to us on 10 different program opportunities through year 6 to year 7. We hold their hands in a way that for some reason their community, their family, are unable to do. So we take them all the way into year 7. Statistics show that if a child is to disengage from school between year 6 and year 7, that's the most difficult to re-engage them with education. So we help those kids make that transition. Then we go on to the Mentor program. Truly exceptional. Another 26, so 10 camps for the Reef and 26 camps for the Mentor program. Some kids come to us every single one of those 36 opportunities. In fact, we've got a casual member of staff in her mid-20s now. She came on Take a Break, then she joined the Reef. She came on 36 programs with Reef and Mentor. She then qualified with a double degree in paramedicine and nursing. She's now learning to be a chef. We've just managed to secure a scholarship as well at Deakin. Deakin have been incredible for us. But her life trajectory has been quite remarkable. I started to smile then because she said to me recently, she comes back as a casual when she's not working at the hospital in Geelong. And she said she loves seeing the kids trying to get away with things at night because it's exactly what she did and she knows what they're up to. So this letter arrived maybe 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago from one of the schools. It's very typical of the type of feedback that comes to Cottage. I will read 3 bits from it. Many of our students have not been to the beach, as I was saying, let alone swam and surfed. Many of our students do not get a balanced meal for dinner. Some have no electricity or heating at times. This is real. This is in Australia. I know what we do is different, and I believe it to be the best there is. So how do we do it? It's community. Again, one of our values. It's you guys. It's everybody in our extended community all the way through to Melbourne and beyond. These photos are taken from those photos are both taken from the annual fair. We reached 100 years of annual fair last year in some form or another. And it raised $80,000 last year, actually. So they're just an amazing people that come and help out in various ways. I was asked when I came here by one of the board members, a new board member actually, who's recently joined this community now. He's bought a house and moved from Melbourne to here in Point Lonsdale. And he asked if Cottage by the Sea is of the community or is it just in the community? It's a good question. I didn't really like it at the time because I just assumed we'd be part of the community. I've never been able to forget that thought because I do believe that community is everything. And as I've said a couple of times, this is an incredible community. I certainly hope we're of the community. Cottage has stood on the same spot for 135 years. That's without government funding. All with grassroots donations, events, fundraisers, and great relationships. And without this wonderful community, we couldn't do it. I've got a great story on this next image. I love this. Cos has been a volunteer for about 24 years now. I didn't ask his permission to bring it up today. Cos, when he arrived, to my predecessor, Tony Featherstone, some of you may know, lovely fella, came in and said he's just retired, has been doing all his research on different charities in the area, and he wanted to volunteer at Cottage by the Sea. What are you going to have for me? And Tony said, cleaning windows. And apparently Cos drooped, hated cleaning windows. Every single week, 24 years, Cos has been cleaning our windows. Pretty special, I think. It is a bit like a family there with the volunteers. Amazing individuals help us out. So I was speaking to one of our alumni, Morgan Mitchell, a two-time Olympian. Morgan won't mind me saying at all that she came to Cottage with her sisters 20-something years ago. She told me that it was a turning point in life with her sisters coming to Cottage. But she went on Survivor recently. I don't know if any of you guys watched Survivor, that reality TV show I think it was filmed out in one of the islands in the Pacific. But she met an incredible bloke called Caelan Lockhart, an Aussie from Queensland. Caelan then went, for having been inspired by talking to Morgan, and he, with skis on, over 100 days, skied the entire length of Norway as a fundraiser for Cottage, raised $11,000, something like that. Isn't that just staggering? I spoke to him the other day. He's working in Tasmania at the moment, and I wanted him to come across and play with the kids at some point. And he said, he'll kayak across. So maybe we'll do it as another fundraiser, I don't know. Yeah, we'll move on to Deakin, actually. I said we've got an amazing relationship with them. Please do take one of these summary studies. We've always known anecdotally that the work we did make a difference. But in this sector, in this line of work, the staff attrition rate is really high because staff have to put so much energy in. Every single week, you've got to get back up again and be fresh so that those children know that they're important and feel like they're the only children in the world. And that's what our team managed to do week in, week out. It's incredible the energy they put into making that happen. We are extremely lucky that the place has been there for so long, because people do come back to us. Here I go again. Another story popped into my head. Dorothy Hepburn, 96 years old, came back to Cottage after 85, 86 years having been away. She was there as a young girl. And she came back in and she used the slide inside the building. I was a bit scared about that. She's 96 years old. But how'd you say no to 96-year-old Dorothy? You can't say no. So she went down, she screamed and whooped and came out with a big smile on her face. And it gave me an idea, because our Queen was 96 at that time as well. So Dorothy was just saying she wanted to come back and relive some of the happy memories that she had at Cottage when she was 10 years old. So I wrote to the Queen, and this brings us back into the historical side of things. The Queen's grandmother, Queen Mary of Teck, was our patron in 1952 when Queen Elizabeth ascended to the throne. And I, on my wall, have got a signed photo from Queen Mary of Teck from 1952. So I copied that picture. I told her the story about Dorothy coming down, and I've cheekily finished my letter to the Queen is, "We're proud of you. Stay young, Your Majesty, like Dorothy." Anyway, she wrote a letter back. That was the month before she passed away, which is a nice... I haven't put it in a frame yet, which we really should do at some point. But a year later, I presented that to Dorothy because it's the Queen mentioning Dorothy, and she was overjoyed. Sadly, Dorothy had promised to come back as 100 and go down the slide again, but she passed away just last year. So anyway, it's a nice little story, and sorry, I've drifted off again. But what Deakin have done is shown us, and it's given more power behind the volunteers and power behind the staff to understand what we're doing is making a difference. These impact studies are worth their weight in gold. Actually, this is Dr. Matthew Hurd. I've never met Matthew. I got an email off him only yesterday. He's on holiday. Matthew came to Cottage in 2006, but I'll let you listen to it from him. This was recorded for an event we had earlier in the year. Hopefully we'll be able to get Matt to talk to you just for a couple of minutes. It's an amazing story. He only came once to Cottage by the Sea. That's why it's relevant.
Hi, everyone. I'm Matt. I'm an ex-participant of the Take a Break program from way back in 2006. Firstly, I'd just like to say thank you to Andrew for giving me the opportunity to speak today and to share some of my journey with you all. As mentioned, back in 2006, I was afforded the opportunity to spend a week at the cottage for some respite. This occurred really on a background of a recently broken home earlier that year and some chronically present difficulties in the setting of my brother having a traumatic brain injury and subsequent disability a few years prior in 2001. My experience at the cottage was really supposed to be a fun week-long getaway, and it truly it was. But what struck much deeper during this week was this sense of power and the power of compassion, attention, and presence by the staff. And whilst not really having the words for it at the time, these things really changed a child's outlook and gave me a sense of belonging and really planted a seed into what kind of person I really wanted to be. This compassion, attention, and presence that I speak about, it's really set the stones in place in my pathway into what my ultimate goal really has been, and that's to become a medical doctor. So really fasting forward to 2018, I officially begin medical school during this year, and I go to Deakin University, and this is just a really short drive away from the cottage in Geelong, with the main campus being at Warm Ponds and our clinical school being in the CBD. At this time, the excitement was actually was really real. You know, you're living out a childhood dream. The challenges, though, conversely, were immense. There was long nights studying. There was these endless exams and this overwhelming sense of responsibility that comes with being a medical doctor. I actually spoke at the AGM for the cottage during this year in November, I believe, and really during my speech writing for this, I reflected that just like that week in 2006, that really medicine at its core was about human connection and compassion. Since then, I've embarked on my career. I graduated in 2021. I did my internship in Ballarat and have progressed to my current role, where I'm a physician trainee at the Austin Hospital, where I'm actually currently 3 weeks away from sitting my final specialist exam in medicine, which is exciting. My overall end goal after all of this is to specialise in neurology, which will take another 3 years of work. During each stage of my training, human connection has really been at its core, whether it's learning to take a proper history from a patient, an examination, start supporting families and patients through difficult diagnoses, or even just holding someone's hand in silence to support them. It's become obvious really to me over this time that, yeah, sure, the science matters in medicine, but really it's people in connection that are priority. And I think really fundamentally the cottage taught me this. So in that sense, the cottage has really served as a cornerstone for me in terms of is a cornerstone moment really in my pathway to medicine, and really a week in which I hold very fond memories. I didn't really know it at the time, but it really set the landscape for the ethos for which I live by. And this is not only in medicine, but actually more broadly. So thank you again for the opportunity to speak today and for all that you do for the community. It means more than words can describe. Thank you.
I said I had an email off Matt honestly yesterday. He's on holiday in Bangkok, in Thailand, and this is what he said, that he passed his final exams, the ones he referred to, and he had applied for the course, the formalised neurology speciality training, only 20 spots across Victoria and Tasmania. And quote unquote, I was fortunate enough to be selected. Essentially, that means I'll be a qualified neurologist in 3 years' time. Very exciting. It's really nice to be able to tell you that. So that's pretty much the present. So I'm going to move into the future now. And of course, there's been a bit of community conversation around some of the work that's been going on at Cottage recently on the corner block, Riptide. I don't know if I was going to tell this story about Riptide, by the way, but I will actually. Do people know Vance Joy stayed there as an 8-year-old? Does anybody know that? Or so Vance Joy is a singer that sang a song called Riptide, and is one of the most famous songs to come out of Australia. It's still very high in something called the ARIA charts. Real name James Keogh. He stayed there as an 8-year-old. He took the inspiration from the name of the old motel, Riptide, and the rest is history.
I was scared of dentists in the dark. Are we scared of pretty girls and starting conversations? Are all my friends are turning green? You're the magician's assistant in their dreams. Our lady running to the riptide, taken away to the dark side. I wanna be your left-hand man. I love you when you're singing that.
I reached out to the management and his manager and asked if James would like to be involved in some way. When his manager, Rachel, reached out to him, he said, yeah, I'd love to be involved. He made a phone call to an American apparel company in New York that he had a relationship with. He scribbled some lovely little images like kids on surfboards and stuff like that on a napkin, gave it to those guys. They printed Vance's images onto board shorts. And then they sold those board shorts, and they told me at the start of the process, you'll get about $3,500 from this project. He sent us $57,000 to go towards the build of the new Riptide, which is wonderful. The future, digital's with us to stay now. I'm terrible with digital stuff, but some people aren't. And we've brought together Deakin University with another brilliant university, Monash. What they're starting to look at for us is how we can use technology to reach more children. Again, this is with Professor Patch, who was in an earlier photo. She's the Professor of Education, the School of Education. We've managed to get her in the same room with Professor Phillips, Mike Phillips from Monash, who's the Professor of Digital Transformation. Why is that important? Because they're world leaders. They're brilliant in this space. And we've had 3 meetings now on site already to try and look to how do we go beyond the confines of our physical facility? How can we use, and it might be counterintuitive, how do we use technology to get more children outside, more connected, increase their confidence, decrease their anxiety? I don't know how we're going to do that, but these great minds are going to be able to get us there. So maybe in the future we won't be reaching hundreds or just a couple of thousand. Maybe it'll be hundreds of thousands. Maybe we can go global with this once we've got it done. So we're working hard on making that happen. We're also hoping at some point in the next 5 years, we've got no funding for this, to build a centre for learning. Those who are familiar with the site will know there's a broken down, pretty much old hut on the southeastern corner of the property. It's been there for many, many years, but it's beginning to rot. And if we can turn that into a centre for learning, maybe it'll be a digital learning facility. We'll bring professors and PhD students in there to do further research. And importantly, it can be a community hub, so you guys can have meetings there. We'll make sure there's an access point off the road so that people don't have to come through with the vulnerable children. So that's very important to us to make that happen, and it's something, watch this space, maybe in the next 5 years. So actually, these are artist images of what the new area might look like. I, for one, think it looks pretty spectacular. What's more important for me is that kids coming to stay in Riptide, and what it's going to do is give us the capacity for another 700 children in our physical site every single year. So we've reached 1900 now, and with this facility we'll be able, with the funding and correct staffing is very important, we'll reach 2,500 children a year. It is going to be, for children experiencing vulnerability, the best facility in the country. And I can say that with absolute confidence. When the children walk in, and I can't wait to see some of you guys in there when we've got it open, when we've got it finished at the end of the year. We'll have a big launch there, maybe even get Vance, who knows. But as you walk in through the main door, it's all glass on the north face to bring in all the light, the colour, the happiness for these children. On the left, there's a low-level climbing area, bouldering tower. Another one of the big slides that comes down. And as you walk in, it's a big netted area between the first floor and the ground floor. So it's a library around there with kids' books, so the kids can lie on the net and see what's going on below as well. It is going to be truly spectacular. Kids walking into Main Cottage, as soon as they see that slide and then the ocean that they've never seen before, their jaws literally drop open. They're so excited about what the next week is going to be for them. It's going to even be doubled up on Riptide. It's going to be an amazing place. So I am very excited to show you that. I've not really referred to my notes, so I probably should have a quick look at them before I wind up. We are living in a complex world of operation these days, more compliance and regulation that's ever existed across all industries. And society seems to be leaning into rights rather than responsibilities, and that brings with it challenges. But we do owe it to our kids, to our current and the future children, to do everything we can as a community to help them as much as we can. And remember what that great bloke said to me while we were having a beer, a child's laughter is everything. Thanks, guys.